The Dye's Forest Archive stood resolutely amidst the towering trees, a sanctuary of serenity where ancient knowledge whispered through the rustling leaves. The sun, filtering through the verdant canopy, cast dappled patterns of light upon the stone walls, their surface cloaked in a quilt of moss and creeping vines. Within this hallowed space, Cyrus Xanthis, a tall figure with dark hair, that at the nape of his neck, sat at a weather-beaten wooden desk, his fingers gliding reverently over the delicate scrolls laid before him. The air, thick with the scent of aged paper and the earthy aroma of the surrounding forest, wrapped Oantid like a familiar embrace, grounding him in his purpose. With each artifact catalogued, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment, convinced that preserving the village history was not merely a task, but a noble duty, a thread connecting the present to the past. As he unfurled a fragile scroll, Cyrus marveled at the intricate calligraphy, the loops and swirls of ink telling stories long forgotten. The soft rustle of parchment broke the tranquil rhythm of the archive, punctuated by the distant calls of birds soaring through the branches outside. It was in these quiet moments that he found solace, a stark contrast to the rising tide of unease that often seeped into his thoughts. If only these woods could speak, he murmured, more to himself than to anyone else, the weight of responsibility draping over him like a cloak. What truths would they reveal? As he meticulously transcribed the text into his ledger, he felt a sudden chill, as if the shadows themselves were eavesdropping on his reverie. Just then, the heavy door creaked open, and the air shifted, charged with an unsettling energy. Nerath Paldor, clad in opulent robes that shimmered like a marriage, stepped into the archive with an air of calculated charisma. His cold blue eyes walked onto Cyrus, a predatory gleam flickering within. "Ah, the diligent historian," he drawled, his voice smooth yet laced with an undercurrent of mockery. "Still toiling away in this dusty relic of the past? History is but a canvas. One must know to paint it to wield its power." Cyrus gritted his teeth, the familiar irritation rising within him. He understood the veiled threat behind Nerath's words, a reminder of the corrupting force that sought to manipulate the very histories he cherished. Cyrus straightened, the tension coiling in his gut like a spring. "And what if I choose to let the past speak for itself?" he replied, the challenge in his tone hanging heavy in the air. Nerath's smile widened, a flicker of amusement dancing in his eyes as he stepped close. The scent of his cologne, a sharp, cloying fragrance, filling the space between them. "Ah, but my dear Cyrus, history is hardly a passive observer. Bends to those who dare to shape it." With that, Nerath's gaze drifted to a hidden compartment in Cyrus's desk, a knowing look passing over his eye. The weight of his words lingered, a shroud of tension enveloping the archive, leaving Cyrus wrestling with the shadows of doubt and the need to protect the truth he so fervently admired. The Dye's Forest, a tangle of emerald hues and whispering leaves, cradled a secret long forgotten. Sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting dapples of gold upon the mossy carpet where Cyrus Xanthis treaded softly, heart thrumming with anticipation. As he ventured deeper, the air thickened with the damp scent of earth and decay, a testament to the passage of time. His fingers brushed against the rough bark of ancient trees, feeling the pulse of history beneath the surface. But it was the muted rustle of something out of place, the shifting curtain of vines that beckoned him. With a cautious push, Cyrus revealed the cave entrance, its mouth gaping like a dark wound in the natural beauty around it. A shiver of unease crept along his spine, but curiosity urged it forward into the shadowy unknown. Stepping inside, the air shifted, cooler and charged with an electric tension that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The walls of the cave were etched with symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light, a language long lost to time. As he traced the grooves with his fingertips, a front of dread coiled in his gut. Each curve and line spoke of an ancient plan, one that promised to unravel the village's history and reshape it into something entirely unrecognizable. "What have you found, Cyrus?" A voice chimed in his thoughts, echoing Nerath's earlier warning, flooding his mind with doubts. He had always revered the past, cherished its lessons as sacred, but the weight of potential corruption pressed heavily upon his conscience. This can't be right," he murmured, grappling with the implications that clawed at his very core. His heart raced, envisioning a future where their beloved village was stripped of its identity, its stories rewritten by hands that knew nothing of its struggles and triumphs. The images danced in his mind, a chaotic tapestry of loss and betrayal. He could almost hear the voices of his ancestors whispering from the past, urging him to preserve the truth, to protect the legacy that had shaped them all. As the shadows deepened around it, casting elongated shapes that seemed to dance on the walls, Cyrus felt the urgency of his task pulse like a heartbeat in his ears. He envisioned himself standing before the villagers, the weight of this discovery heavy on his shoulders.
Would they understand the gravity of his find?
Grace hears and Rond Ortorand Hor destroy file. You're not well affected.
And would they succumb to the allure of a new narrative, swallowing falsehoods whole? He clenched his fists, torn between the truth he had sworn to uphold and the increasingly seductive power of a rewritten historiette. With a deep breath, he stepped back, the symbols flickering in his memory like distant stars. The cave seemed to close in on Div, a tomb of secrets wanting to be unearthed.
He knew he must return to the archive to confront Nerath and the corruption that threatened everything he held dear.
Yet, even as he retreated from the cavern, doubt gnawed at him, a whispering question that would let go. Was he truly prepared to safeguard the past when the future hung in the balance? As he emerged from the cave, the sunlight felt harsh against his skin, a stark contrast to the warm darkness he had just left. Shadows danced at the edges of his vision, reminding him of the weighty discovery that lingered in his mind. The forest, usually a sanctuary, now felt like a labyrinth of uncertainty, each path a potential betrayal of his ideals. Cyrus' heart pounded in his chest, a drumbeat of resolve mingling with fear. Wars, threatening to rewrite everything he loved. With clenched fists and a sharpened purpose, he set off towards the archive, determined to face Nerath and the storm brewing over Dai's forest. The real battle for history had only yet begun. The Dai's Forest Library exuded an air of reverence, each dusty tome a silent guardian of history, its spines etched with titles long forgotten. Sunlight filtered through the arched windows, casting warm golden pools onto the worn floorboards, mingling with the earthy scent of aged paper and moss. In this hallowed sanctuary, Cyrus Xanthis felt the weight of his lineage pressing upon his shoulders, the legacy of his Archivist family, urging him to uncover the truth. Today, however, urgency thrummed in his veins as he stepped past the threshold, the flickering of candlelight illuminating the resolute lines of his faith. He sought out Nerath Paldor, his mentor, whose wisdom now felt tainted by the shadows of doubt that loomed over Cyrus' heart, threatening to unravel everything he held dear. Cyrus found Nerath hunched over a sprawling manuscript at his intricately carved desk, his graying hair slicked back, eyes cold and calculating. "You're late, Cyrus," Nerath remarked, his voice a low rumble, barely lifting his gaze from the parchment that consumed them. The flickering candlelight danced across his face, but the warmth of the moment was swallowed by an icy air between them. Cyrus clenched his fists, suppressing a surge of frustration.
I need to know about the portal Nerath.
The whispers, there growed louder. What are your true intentions? His voice cracked slightly, the urgency betraying his calm demeanor as he stepped closer, ready for a confrontation. Nerath finally looked up, an unreadable expression settling over his features. He adjusted the spectacles perched on his nose, masking a flicker of surprise. The portal is a tool, Cyrus. A means to explore the past, not alter it. You misunderstand the potential at hit, he replied, his tone measured yet oddly evasive. The weight of unspoken secrets hung heavy in the air, and Cyrus' heart raced, each thump echoing his inner turmoil. But can we really trust it? Can you be trusted? He felt the ground beneath his shift, the foundations of his beliefs teetering on the edge, as he searched Nerath's eyes for some sign of loyalty, some hint of sincerity. Nerath leaned back in his chair, a smirk creeping into his expression, yet it felt more like a mask than a gesture of comfort. Trust is built on understanding, my dear boy. You cling to your ideals like a child clings to a favorite toy, but the world is far more complex. History is a tapestry woven with threads of choice and consequence. Would you unravel it for a fleeting glimpse of what could have been? His voice dripped with condescension, and Cyrus recoiled, the mentor he once revered now appearing like a stranger draped in shadows. Each word felt like a betrayal, igniting a firestorm of doubt that consumed him. Cyrus shook his head, anger and confusion battling within him.
You speak of history, yet you're ready to play with it, as if it were a game.
I came to your seeking guidance, Nerath, Lord Resolve.
What you were doing could destroy everything we know. The library felt smaller, the walls closing in as he faced the man who had taught Head to cherish the past. The silence that followed buzzed with tension, a storm gathering in the depths of the archive, and Cyrus realized he was teetering on the brink of a decision that could redefine his allegiance to both mentor and village. The echo of his own heartbeat drowned out the rustling of parchment as Cyrus took a step back, grappling with the weight of Nerath's words. Doubt gnawed at it, yet a spark of defiance ignited in his chest. He couldn't abandon the truth, nor could he stand idly by if his mentor meant to rewrite their history for his own gain. With newfound resolve, he straightened, locking eyes with Nerath, whose expression had hardened into a mask of indifference. If you refuse to tell Vel the whole truth, then I will find it, no matter the cost, he declared. The library warmth, now a distant memory. As he turned to leave, the door creaked ominously behind it, as if the very archive was warning him of the storm that lay ahead. The Dyes Forest archive stood, like a sentinel, among the gnarled roots and whispering leaves of ancient trees, its stone exterior thickly cloaked in moss and shadow. Sunlight filtered through the large arched windows, creating dappled patterns on the wooden floor, where dust motes danced like forgotten secrets. Cyrus Xanthis, lean and athletic, hovered over a sprawling mass of scrolls, his dark brown hair tied back in a hasty knot. The musty scent of aged paper intertwined with the earthy aromas of the forest, wrapping around it like a comforting shroud. Today, the archive pulsed with urgency, the weight of history pressing against his chest as he searched for evidence of corruption, the kind that twisted the truth beneath the surface. A small scar above his right eyebrow, a fragment of his childhood, throbbed with the tension of his mission, his heart racing with each unrolled scroll. Cyrus' fingers trembled slightly as they brushed over the brittle parchment. He paused, squinting at a faded ink mark that caught the light. That right. Breathing in deeply to steady himself, he muttered under his breath, Come on. Show me what you've got. Just as he unfurled a particularly ancient scroll, his heart skipped. There it was, a mention of Nerath Paldor, the corrupt official whose shadow darkened the village.
The ink revealed a series of cover-ups, a map of deceit woven into the fabric of their community history.
The echoes of his family legacy whispered encouragement in his mind, propelling him deeper into his discoveries, each fact binding him more fiercely to the truth he sought. Cyrus barely had time to savor his find when the heavy door swung open, the creak echoing ominously through the silence. In strode Nerath Paldor, flanked by two guards whose imposing figures absorbed the light like black het. The cold blue of Nerath's eyes scanned the room, and a predatory smile curled upon his lips as he caught sight of Cyrus. What a surprise, Cyrus! I didn't expect to find you lurking in the shadows of history, he taunted, his voice smooth, like oil on water. The air thickened with tension, and Cyrus' heart pounded louder, drowning out Nerathic condescension as dread settled in his stomach. He could feel the weight of the scrolls in his hands, the evidence of corruption that now felt perilously vulnerable. In a flash, urgency overcame hesitation. Cyrus quickly shoved the scrolls into his leather bag, the familiar leather warm against his trembling fingers. I'm just Cyrus. What to carry Alexatis route my name this iniously? They can drive biggering? Demons, yes, sir, eso. Praise. No need to make a fuss, he said, forcing a nonchalance that felt brittle against the encroaching danger. The cold laughter that followed sent a shiver down his spine, and he made a rake for the back exit, the guards closing in with menacing intent. The scent of damp earth and moss rushed to greet him as he burst through the door, heart hammering in his chest. He sprinted into the dense embrace of the forest, the shadows of trees swallowing he whole as he maneuvered through the underbrush, desperate to escape the clutches of betrayal. Closing Partocrat, Cyrus plunged deeper into the embrace of the Dice forest, the cacophony of leaves rustling and twigs snapping beneath his boots, a chaotic symphony of his escape. Each heartbeat felt like a drum, signaling both fear and exhilaration. He dared not look back. Yet, the cold weight of Nerath's presence lingered like a specter haunting his thoughts. Just as he rounded a thick trunk, a branch cracked overhead, a sound too close for comfort. He paused, breathless, and pressed his back against the rough bark, his mind racing. He had uncovered a thread of truth, yet the danger was far from over. In this moment of respite, he understood that this was just the beginning, the battle for the village history, and his own future had only but begun. The tavern lay shrouded in shadows, its low timber beams heavy with the scent of wood smoke and the distant echo of laughter mingling with the clinking of mugs. Flickering candlelight illuminated the faces of a handful of patrons, their expressions veiled in uncertainty as they veered around worn tables. In a dim corner, Cyrus Xanthis leaned forward, his lean frame tense, eyes glinting with purpose. The air smelled of spilled ale and unwashed dishes, yet it was the thick tension that filled the space, coiling tight around it. Cleek glanced towards the hearth, where the embers glowed like dim stars, a reminder of the warmth he sought in this late hour. Beside him sat Nerath Paldor, the village elder, his cold blue eyes surveying the room, while the wise mentor, Elira, her silver hair catching the light, listened intently, a frown lining her brow as she sensed the reluctance weighing on the villagers' hearts. Cyrus cleared his throat, the sound cutting through the murmurs.
We can't let fear hold us back.
The truth about the forest history is at stake, and if we don't act, it'll be lost forever. Nerath shifted uneasily, his stocky form radiating skepticism. And what if you're wrong, boy?
These are dangerous men you want to confront.
We have nothing but our quiet lives to lose.
Illyria's gaze softened as she rested a head on Cyrus' arm.
Remember, Cyrus, not everyone is as brave as you.
People fear for their families, their livelihoods. You must give them a reason to hope, not just a cause to fight. Cyrus' jaw clenched. He could see the flickers of doubt in the villagers' eyes, their loyalty divided like the shadows that danced across the walls.
If they won't stand with us, I'll go alone.
I will not let fear dictate our story. The weight of his resolve pressed heavily upon it, yet in that moment, he also felt the sting of isolation, a truth that wrapped itself around his heart like a tightening noose. Cyrus' words hung heavily in the air, a challenge and a plea. A murmur rippled through the tavern, whispers of concern and dissent swirling like smoke. One villager, an elderly woman with gnarled hands, leaned closer.
We've lost good men before, young one.
You think your bravery can shield you from their wrath?
They won't stop until they bury the truth beneath lies and ashes.
Nerath glanced at the woman, casting a glance back at Cyrus. Perhaps your passion is admirable, but it may lead to ruin. The forest, it holds more than memories. A place of power, and those who disturb it invite chaos.
Right, is he hard?
Are you willing to pay that price?
Cyrus felt his chest tighten.
If the price is silence and submission, then yes.
Right, is he recovers it? Who?
Flame in his heart ignited, pushing against the encroaching shadows of doubt.
With every hesitant murmur from the villagers, he felt their fears tightening around it, a reminder of the burden he carried alone in the face of an uncertain future. As the murmurs faded into an uneasy silence, Cyrus inhaled deeply, the scent of wood smoke mingling with his determination. It scanned the fed faces, searching for a spark of solidarity, yet finding only shadows of apprehension. With every passing moment, the resolve to act alone solidified within him, transforming the isolation into a steely conviction.
If not today, I will set forth tomorrow.
I'll unearth the truth, with or without your help, he declared, the words echoing in the dimness of the tavern. As he sat back, heart racing with purpose, he felt the weight of the world press down upon him, yet it was a weight he was finally ready to bear. The path ahead loomed dark and uncertain, but Cyrus was no longer afraid. He was ready to confront whatever awaited him. The hidden grove, a sanctuary, kissed by dappled sunlight filtering through the gnarled branches, breathed dye into the air laden with the musky scent of damp earth and wildflowers. Here, ferns whispered secrets to the gentle rustic of leaves, their lush green and emerald tapestry that enveloped the clearing. Cyrus Xanthis stood at the heart of this refuge, his lean frame tense against the backdrop of ancient oaks that towered like sentinels. Breeze brushed through his dark, shoulder-length hair, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within. Beside him, Nerath Paldor, stocky and imposing, pate with an intensity that set the birds to flight, while the village elder, a frail wisp of a woman, sat cross-legged upon a mossy stone, her eyes glimmering with the weight of untold stories. Nerath halted, his cold blue eyes narrowing. The artifact is not merely a tool. Cyrus, it is a portal, a bridge between our past and the future. But in the wrong hands, it could unleash chaos upon our village, Do you understand the implications of revealing this corruption? His voice was a low growl, resonating through the grove as the gravity of his words settled over Cyrus like a shroud. The air felt thick with anticipation, as if the very trees were holding their breath, waiting for his response. Cyrus shifted, the sun illuminating the small scar above his right eyebrow, a reminder of recklessness from his youth.
I don't seek this power, Nerath, but it found me.
If the artifact can protect our history, then I must do whatever it takes. We cannot let Paldor twist our traditions for his gain. His voice rose, crackling with newfound resolve.
You felt the fire within here ignite. You'll light history worth fighting for.
A legacy worth defending. Against the encroaching darkness, the elder, her voice a gentle breeze that seemed to calm the tumult, placed a head on Cyrus's arm, grounding him. Cyrus' passion is a double-edged sword.
Use it wisely, for the path you tread is riddled with peril.
The village past is not tales. It is a living testament of our identity. You must tread carefully, for every action has its consequence.
What you choose to reveal could change everything.
Her gaze pierced through the canopy, as if she could see the very threads of fate weaving around them. Cyrus clenched his fists, the rough leather of his trousers grounding it in reality. If we keep silent, we become complicit in his treachery.
This is about more than just me. It's about safeguarding our history from those who would erase it.
I will confront Paldor. Whatever comes, I face it with the truth at my side. His heart pounded, resonating in the silence that followed, the weight of his decision hanging heavy in the air. The grove around them seemed to pulse with energy, the sunlight a witness to Cyrus's fervor. As Nerath the Elder exchanged worried glances, he felt a shift within himself, a transformation from uncertainty to determination. He knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the flame of his resolve burned fiercely now. With a final glance back at the ancient trees, he stepped forward, ready to unmask the corruption threatening his village. The echoes of the grove whispered promises of both peril and purpose, propelling him toward a reckoning that could reshape their very existence. The Dye's Forest Archive breathed history, its very walls whispering secrets of ages past. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight that filtered through the arched windows, illuminating the cluttered chaos of scrolls and tomes stacked haphazardly on shelves. A rich, earthy scent mingled with the mustiness of ancient paper, filling the air with a sense of both tranquility and unease. Amidst this sanctuary of knowledge stood Cyrus Xanthis, his lean frame tense as he paced the worn rug, fingers brushing against the embroidered tunic that spoke of his family legacy. In stark contrast, Nerath Paldor occupied his sturdy wooden chair behind the cluttered desk, his cold blue eyes narrowing as he watched Cyrus with a mixture of concern and frustration. The atmosphere crackled with tension, as if the very essence of the archive was holding its breath, anticipating the storm about to break. Cyrus halted, his Xanthis eyes flashing with defiance.
You don't understand, Nerath.
The truth isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. The villagers have the right to know what's happening beneath the surface. His voice trembled with passion, a stark contrast to the calm facade Nerath maintained, a mask that only barely concealed his gross agitation. The dim light caught the glint of metal in Nerath's hands as he toyed with a small relic, a subtle reminder of the power he wielded.
Race here.
And what of the consequences, Cyrus?
You think unearthing the past will not bring a reckoning? Those you wish to expose will not take kindly to your meddling, Nerath responded, his tone icy. Consequences. Cyrus spat, his fists clenching at his sides. The air grew thicker, the scent of old parchment mingling with the tension that seemed to stretch like a taut bowstring.
You mean the consequences for you?
For your precious reputation.
You care more about your position than the truth of our history. He stepped closer, the anger radiating off it in waves. Nerath's expression hardened, his voice dropping to a low, warning tone.
This is not just about you, boy.
The world is not black and white. I have made sacrifices to protect you, even if you cannot see it. Cyrus' resolve wavered for a heartbeat, doubt creeping in like shadows around the edges of his conviction. The weight of Nerath's words intertwined with the suffocating atmosphere of the study, threatening to extinguish the fire that had propelled him thus far. He pulled back, heart racing, and spoke with a sharper edge.
You bury your head in the sand, Nerath.
You may think you're protecting me, but I feel trapped in this cage of your making. The finality of his words hung like a noose. The silence that followed heavy and pregnant with unspoken fears. Nerath's face paled slightly, the flicker of hurt buried beneath a veneer of stoicism. But before he could respond, Cyrus turned on his heel, the whisper of his earth-toned cloak against the rug, barely masking the sound of his heart thundering in his chest as he stormed out. The archive felt smaller, suffocatingly intimate, and somewhere deep within him, a flicker of uncertainty ignited a fire of determination. With each step into the vibrant forest beyond, he silently vowed to uncover the truth, no matter the cost, the echoes of their confrontation lingering like smoke in the air. Outside, the Dye's forest enveloped hid in its cool embrace, the leaves rustling above like a chorus of ancient voices urging he onward. The gentle scent of damp earth and pine filled his lungs, grounding him even as doubt knotted in his stomach. He could still hear Nerath's warning ringing in his ears, yet the thought of remaining silent while injustice festered felt like a betrayal to his family legacy. As he gazed back at the looming archive, now a mere silhouette against the sun, he steeled himself for the path ahead. The winding trail beckoned, filled with uncertainty, but his resolve burned brighter than then he would turn back. Not now. Not The moon hung low in the night sky, casting an ethereal glow over the Dye's forest archive. Nestled among the towering trees, its stone facade loomed like a sentinel, ivy creeping up its sides as if to shield the secrets within. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, mingling with the faint, musty aroma of ancient paper. Cyrus Xanthis slipped through the shadows, his heart pound in rhythm with his hurried footsteps. He felt the weight of his family legacy pressing down on Nen, each step toward the archive fraught with danger yet charged with purpose. Tonight, he would confront the darkness that had seeped into the sanctum of history, determined to salvage the truth before it was buried beneath layers of deceit. The interior of the archive was cloaked in darkness, the only light filtering through the arched windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the stillness. Cyrus moved with practiced stealth, his fingers brushing against the spines of ancient tomes, as he navigated toward the back room where Nerath Paldor corrupt schemes lay hidden. The palpable tension in the air wrapped around him, heightening its sound, the creak of the wooden floorboards beneath his boots, the faint rest set of parchment as he rummed through the stacks. He paused, his hazel eyes scanning the dim expanse, every shadow a potential threat. "I can't let it do this," he muttered, the resolve in his voice steadying his trembling hands. "Not while I'm still breathing." Cyrus' heart raced as he pried open a drawer filled with documents, the scent of aged paper filling his lungs. Just as he began to sift through the files, a sudden noise sent his adrenaline spiking. The door creaked open, And there stood Nerath Paldor, his cold blue eyes glinting like shards of ice in the dark. "What brings you here, Cyrus?" he asked, feigning surprise. "I didn't expect to see you breaking and entering at such an hour." The mockery laced in his voice gnawed at Cyrus' insides, and he took instinctual steps back, his breath shallow, the weight of betrayal heavy in his chest. "You're ruining everything, eh?" Cyrus shot back, his composure faltering. With a swift movement, he grabbed a nearby candlestick, its cool metal slick against his palm. "You can't keep twisting the truth for your gain." The two men stood on opposite sides of the room, tension crackling like dry leaves underfoot. Nerath smirked, advancing slowly, his demeanor unflinching.
And Nicky, still trying to fight for history. Ghost.
You think you can stop, Pai?
As he lunged, Cyrus swung the candlestick, their worlds colliding in a burst of violent energy, echoing against the stone walls, history against corruption, loyalty against ambition. The struggle was fierce, but Nerath was a seasoned strategist, his stocky build easily absorbing the chaotic blows. With a calculated twist, he seized Cyrus' wrist, pinning it against the wall. Wrist breathless, Cyrus' heart raced, not from the physical exertion, but from the deep-seated conflict within. He had sought to protect the past, yet Ted he was, caught in the present snares, facing the very embodiment of the corruption he longed to expose. "You'll regret this," he gasped, staring into Nerath's unyielding gaze. The older man leaned closer, the scent of cedar and power surrounding him like a shroud.
"No, young Archivist.
The question is, what will you do next?" The weight of the moment hung heavy between them, a cliffhanger resting on the precipice of loyalty and truth, leaving Cyrus to wonder just how far he was willing to go to reclaim his family legacy. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and decaying leaves as Cyrus Xanthis stumbled into the abandoned cabin, the door creaking ominously behind him. Sunlight, strained and diffuse, filtered through the grimy windows, painting the dust motes with a spectral glow. Shadows danced across the walls, twisting and merging like the tangled thoughts in his mind. It sank to the cold, splintered floorboards, each pulse of his heartbeat echoing in the eerie silence. This forsaken place, once a refuge, now felt like a tomb, an empty vessel, mocking his pursuit of truth. The weight of his recapture by Nerath Paldor hung heavy on his chest, a chain of despair binding him to the past he had sworn to protect. Cyrus's fingers brushed against the floor, tracing the rough grain as memories clawed their way to the surface. Images of laughter and vibrant discussions in the archive filled his mind, a stark contrast to the suffocating quiet of the cabin. His heart raced as he recalled the moment he had learned of the corruption festering within his beloved village. "I thought I was strong enough to fight it," he murmured to the shadows, his voice hoarse, as if the cabin itself could cut flawless. "But all I did was let everyone down." In the silence, the wind whispered against the walls, carrying with it the scent of pine and earth. Cleet clenched his fists, feeling the grit of the floor beneath his palms, a reminder of his connection to the land he loved.
What am I doing here?
He asked the emptiness, a haunting question that reverberated in the hollow space. Am I just another pawn in Paldor aim?
Race, where I stand reclaim my family legacy?
The shadows seemed to lean in, holding their breath, waiting for his resolve. As if in response to his turmoil, a breeze rattled the door, sending a shiver down his spine. Cyrus rose unsteadily, the flickering light illuminating the dust-laden air, where his choices hung like cobwebs, fragile yet unyielding. Imagine the stories, yet untold, the truths, waiting in the dark corners of history. "No more," he breathed out, his hazel eyes narrowing with determination.
I won't be silenced. I will embrace my role as a guardian.
No matter the cost. The words felt heavy, yet liberating, grounding him in the depths of his solitude, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the despair. With a newfound clarity, Cyrus turned toward the door, stepping into the shafts of light that broke through the shadowed cabin. He could almost hear the echoes of the archive calling Hid back, urging Hid to piece to keys the fragments of history. "This isn't the end," he declared resolutely, his voice steady now, resonating against the wood. "We have a fight ahead." But for the first time, he felt ready to face it. As he stepped out of the cabin, the forest opened before him, a tapestry of green and brown, woven with golden light. The rustle of leaves and distant bird calls filled the air, a chorus of life that beckoned him forward. Cyrus felt the weight of his decision settle comfortably on his shoulders, a mantle he would wear with pride. The path ahead stretched out, winding into the unknown, yet he was no longer afraid.
He would carve his own place in the history he so cherished, standing between the past and the looming shadows of corruption. With every step, he felt the pulse of the forest sinking with his heart, ready to reclaim his legacy.
The village square hummed with a restless energy, a mosaic of vibrant market stalls draped in colorful fabrics, each fluttering like a flag waving for change. The air carried the scent of baked bread, mingling with the earthy undertone of damp soil, remnants of the morning rain. Under the watchful gaze of the ancient oak that stood sentinel at the square center, Cyrus Xanthis set a circle of determined faces. The villagers, some still clutching their wares, turned toward him, their expressions a blend of hope and trepidation. Sunlight broke through the clouds, casting golden rays on Cyrus's shoulder-length dark hair, framing his lean figure as he prepared to unveil the care that would challenge the very fabric of their community. Dread and anticipation coiled together in the air as he sensed the weight of the moment, aware that what lay ahead could either unite them or tear their bonds apart. Cyrus cleared his throat, each sound amplified by the hush that fell over the square. "Listen, everyone.
We can no longer let the darkness of our history remain buried.
Nerath has twisted the truth for too long, and it's time we confront that.
Raise you critical to me, Amels would be crucified.
Archivist, I have a plan."
He gestured toward the large wooden table at the edge of the square, where the remnants of their last gathering still lingered.
Villagers leaned in low, eyes glitting with a mix of fear and resolve. What if he retaliates? One voice piped up, a young woman with wild curls and a frown etched on her brow. "He has allies, and we're only a handful." The murmurs of doubt rippled through the crowd, but Cyrus raised his hand, quieting them with the authority he didn't know he possessed.
Might be few, but we have the truth on our side.
We need to rally the others. Persuade them to see the corruption in our midst.
"If we stand together, we can rake his hold over the village," he urged, his heart pound in rhythm with the mounting tension in the air. As the villagers exchanged glances, Cyrus caught sight of Nerath Paldor leaning against a nearby stall, his cold blue eyes glimmering with amusement. The stocky figure radiated a sense of control, a serpent nestled among unsuspecting prey. "You think they'll fodder you, boy," Nerath called out, his voice a silken taunt drifting through the square.
You're just a historian with romantic notions of truth and justice.
Loyalty runs deep, and it not on your side. Cyrus clenched his fist, the scar of his brow throbbing as memories of past confrontation flared in his mind. The mentor presence loomed behind him, and he dared not look back, knowing that wisdom and concern swirled tether in the mentor gaze, an anchor against the tide of challenge. "It not dead about the past anymore, Nerath," Cyrus replied, striving to keep his voice steady despite the tempest of emotions within.
It about our future.
Our children deserve to inherit the village free from your corruption. If that means breaking ties, then so be it. The villagers stirred, a current of energy shifting through their ranks, bolstered by his words.
Great as seeming Harrison body and Joan. Like goes at. If I was talked like a sergeant to you to the guy was entitled to it. Talk.
Eyes once clouded by uncertainty began to shine with fervor, and one by one, a ripple of agreement surged through the crowd. Yet, even as hope flickered, a shadow loomed larger, and Cyrus could feel the weight of what lay ahead. This confrontation could fracture relationships they'd nurtured for generations, but standing silent was no longer an option. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the cobblestones, Cyrus took a deep breath and faced the crowd once more.
Tomorrow at dawn, we gather by the sound.
Together, we will lay bare the truths hidden beneath layers of deceit. We will be heard. The villagers erupted in murmurs of agreement, yet a flicker of doubt remained in Cyrus' chest, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. Clay glanced at his mentor, whose proud yet worried expression mirrored his own turmoil. This path they were embarking on could lead to a reckoning, but it could also ignite a firestorm of division. As they began to disperse, Cyrus felt the weight of the village history pressing down on him, a reminder that the shadows were not easily dispelled. What awaited him in the dawn was uncertain, but he resolved to ace it head-on, ready to unearth the buried truths, no matter the cost. The village hall loomed like a sentient in the twilight, its stone walls heavy with the whispers of a history obscured by shadows. Flickering candles cast long, quivering shadows across the floor, while the musty scent of damp wood mingled with the faintest trace of smoke from the hearth, where embers still glowed in the last vestiges of hope. In front of the assembly, Cyrus Xanthis stood tall, his lean frame exuding a quiet determination that rippled through the fed villagers. Flanked by his allies, the air hummed with anticipation. Thick enough to taste even the bravest among them, could not ignore the palpable tension of fear awaited the confrontation with Nerath Paldor, the man whose cold blue eyes betrayed no hint of remorse. Tonight, the truth would either shatter the village's fragile unity or unite them in the pursuit of justice. Cyrus' voice rang clear, cutting through the murmurs that enveloped the hall. This popped in too. His even in territory whisper talk to my nebnis in inner. The dim light caught the ink, revealing the intricate sketches of land deals that had robbed them of their heritage. You promised us prosperity, yet our fields lie barren. The words reverberated off the stone walls, igniting a flicker of outrage among the villagers. As they exchanged glances, uncertainty morphed into a shared indignation, eyes widening in disbelief as they absorbed the weight of the evidence before them. Nerath shifted in his seat, the chair creaking under his stocky build, and a sneer curled his lips, a snake coiling in the grass.
Cyrus, your naivete is amusing.
Do you think you can turn the village against me with mere scraps? He leaned forward, his voice low and slicing. The villagers, caught in the crossfire, held their breath, the air heavy with a mixture of fear and anticipation. They were torn, the roots of loyalty tangled with the vines of betrayal that had begun to choke their trust in the man who once promised them security. And what of your actions? Mentor Cyrus' gaze pierced through the crowd, landing on the wise figure of his mentor, whose features had grown increasingly troubled.
You have stood by while he has plundered our history!
Wait and see her iris who to watch Bams.
Are you complicit? Or merely blind?
The challenge hung in the air, charged with accusation. The mentor face paled, the flicker of candlelight casting shadows across his furrowed brow, a storm of guilt brewing within it. The villagers began to murmur, their voices rising in a swell of uncertainty and anger, a tide threatening to rake against the stones of tradition. What do we believe? One woman whispered, her voice trembling as she clutched the den of her neighbor. Is this true? Another man stepped forward, his fists clenched in frustration.
We can't just sit idle while our home crumbles.
The hall buzzed with a charged energy, each heartbeat echoing the pulse of a community on the brink of awakening, yet still tethered to the familiar comfort of denial, weighing the risk of rebellion against the comfort of complacency. Cyrus inhaled deeply, the scent of damp earth mingling with the weight of possibility that hung in the air like an unstruck match.
I shall not let this vidistrun in ignorance, he declared, his voice cutting through the discord as he stepped back, allowing the theft crowd to grapple with their own conscience.
The murmurings grew louder, accusations and questions ricocheting off the walls, forcing each villager to confront their own fear and complicity. As tensions reached a boiling point, Cyrus knew this was only the beginning. The ember of rebellion flickered, ready to either ignite into a blazing fire of justice or fizzle into a smoldering ash of despair. The choice lay before them, and the weight of their decision would reshape their fate forever. The village library, a modest stone structure nestled within the embrace of Dye's forest, breathed with a renewed sense of purpose. Sunlight filtered through large, arched windows, casting warm patterns on the wooden floors, illuminating the dust motes that danced in the air. Cyrus Xanthis, his dark brown hair tied back, stood among towering shelves lined with scrolls and ancient tomes, fingers brushing the faded spines, feeling the weight of history. Around in, villagers lived, their faces lit with determination and hope, sorting through artifacts that spoke of their rich heritage. The scent of aged paper mingled with the earthy aroma of moss creeping over the stone walls, creating a sanctuary where truth could finally unveil itself.
This was their moment.
One forged in defiance against the shadows that threatened to erase their past.
Cyrus paused, turning to a group of villagers diligently arranging the charred remnants of a manuscript. Every letter here tells a story. A truth we've kept hidden for too long, he urged, eyes bright with conviction.
His voice, usually steady, trembled with the weight of betrayal.
The villagers exchanged glances, nodding as if the very air crackled with a newfound energy. One woman, with sun-kissed skin and hands calloused from labor, stepped forward. Raise ears and will ensure that these stories are preserved, Cyrus. They deserve to be heard, not silenced by those who fear our legacy. Nerath Paldor, the village's once esteemed historian, lingered at the edge of the room, arms crossed, expression a mixture of admiration and bitter nostalgia. He observed the scene unfold, his cold blue eyes glinting with a flicker of regret.
History isn't just about the past, Cyrus.
It's about how we shape identity in the now, he said, his voice as smooth as the polished wood of the desk.
I risk too much by digging into what was buried.
What if you unearthed something better? Left. Hidden. Cyrus met his gaze with a fierce resolve, sensing the challenge.
Then we face it too.
We cannot rewrite our past through fear.
We must reclaim it, Nerath, for all of us. The villagers moved with a shared rhythm, each finding their place in this collective endeavor, their laughter mingling with quiet whispers of discovery. Cyrus found himself beside Nerath, the weight of generations between them. You taught me that knowledge is both a burden and a gift, he said, determination threading through his voice.
You have a choice now, to either support this truth or let it rot in the shadows.
We need your wisdom, not your cynicism. Nerath shifted uncomfortably, the lines on his face deepening as he considered Cyrus's words. For a moment, the air thickened with tension, a silent battle raging between loyalty to tradition and the call for change. As the hour wore on, the library transformed into a sanctuary of voices and purpose, laughter echoing where fear once lingered. With every tome opened and every secret unveiled, the villagers began to see themselves as guardians of their own history. Cyrus glanced at Nerath, whose gaze softened, a hint of admiration creeping into his cold demeanor. Perhaps it's time we rewrote the narrative together, Nerath finally conceded, a reluctant smile breaking through. In that moment, hope surged, knitting together the past and present as they embraced their shared mission to protect the truth. Cyrus inhaled deeply, the scent of aged paper filling his lungs, mingling with the faint musk of damp earth, a reminder of the roots they were digging up. With a newfound alliance solidified between past and present, an exhilarating thrill coursed through the library, a testament to their shared resolve. But as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the room, Cyrus couldn't shake the feeling that the battle for their history had only begun. The flickering ember of rebellion burned brightly, anticipating the next challenge that awaited beyond the village's threshold, where unseen enemies lurked, ready to strike.
The library became not just a refuge of learning, but the heart of a movement, a beacon of truth standing firm against the encroaching darkness.